The colony of New Horizons stretched across a vast metallic landscape, where agricultural domes and protective shields created a delicate bubble of human existence. On this distant world, 7-year-old Hannah Park loved exploring the edges of her family's settlement, her small feet dancing between rows of hydroponically grown vegetables and intricate solar collection panels. Her parents, Jay and Lydia, worked in different sections of the colony. Jay managed agricultural systems, while Lydia coordinated environmental control mechanisms. They trusted the settlement's advanced security systems and believed their daughter was safe within the controlled perimeter. That morning, Hannah wore her favorite bright blue jumpsuit, a gift from her grandmother back on Earth. She carried a small, electronic tablet that tracked local wildlife and plant growth, her curious mind always eager to learn. The settlement's outer edges fascinated her, where carefully managed human technology met the raw, untamed landscape of their adopted planet. The Galactic Imperial Patrol had been monitoring human settlements for months. Their massive carrier ship, a kilometers-long metallic beast, moved silently above the colony's atmospheric boundaries. Commander Reiner, a veteran of numerous colonial suppressions, viewed human settlements as potential threats to Imperial expansion. Hannah wandered slightly beyond the marked safety zone, her tablet scanning local microorganisms. She didn't notice the massive shadow descending from above. The Imperial patrol ship's side panel opened, revealing a sleek combat vehicle that dropped silently onto the planet's surface. 2 Imperial soldiers emerged, their exoskeleton armor gleaming under the distant sun. Their weapons, advanced energy rifles capable of molecular disintegration, hung casually at their sides. They scanned the area, their enhanced vision cutting through the environmental protective layers. Hannah looked up, her young face filled with innocent curiosity. She waved, thinking they might be maintenance workers or new colonists. The Imperial soldiers saw something different, a potential threat, an unauthorized presence in what they considered their territorial space. Commander Reiner's voice crackled through their communication systems. "Neutralize the unauthorized biological entity," he commanded, his tone cold and calculated. The soldiers raised their weapons, targeting systems already locked onto the small human child. In that moment, Hannah's world transformed. She didn't understand the sudden danger, her mind still processing the fascinating micro-ecosystem her tablet was displaying. The energy weapon charged, its blue-white light forming a perfect circular pattern around its targeting mechanism. Back in the central colony, hub surveillance systems captured everything. Jay was reviewing crop rotation algorithms when the first alert triggered. Lydia was calibrating atmospheric processors when the second warning flashed across her display. The energy discharge was instantaneous. Where Hannah stood, only a small scorch mark remained. No body, no trace, just complete molecular elimination. The Imperial soldiers marked their mission as completed and returned to their vehicle, treating the incident as routine administrative action. Jay and Lydia's world shattered in that precise moment. Their communication systems simultaneously displayed the horrific footage, their daughter's final moments captured with clinical precision. The colony's emergency protocols activated, but it was too late. What the Imperial Patrol didn't understand was the deep interconnected nature of human communities. This wasn't just an attack on a child. This was an attack on humanity's future, on its hope, on its most vulnerable members. The surveillance recording would become more than evidence. It would become a rallying cry, a catalyst that would transform human response from grief to calculated cold retribution. Commander Reiner leaned back in his command chair, reviewing the mission report. Another potential threat neutralized, another colonial zone secured for Imperial expansion. He saw numbers, statistical probabilities, potential resistance scenarios. What he didn't see was a mother's tears, a father's silent rage, a community's collective trauma transforming into something far more dangerous than any territorial dispute. Hannah's small electronic tablet, still active, continued scanning the environment. Its last recorded data would become the first piece of evidence in humanity's response, a technological testament to a life cut short, a civilization's warning. The scorch mark where she once stood began to be covered by the planet's adaptive soil management systems. But the memory, the incident, would never be erased. Not from human records, not from human memory. The Imperial patrol ship moved silently away, unaware that its actions had just triggered a response that would reshape galactic power dynamics forever. They had killed a child. They had made a fundamental mistake. In the weeks following Hana's murder, the United Earth Command transformed from a diplomatic organization into a precise calculating machine of technological warfare. The Central Command Center, located deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, became a hive of strategic planning and emotional restraint. David Kim sat at the primary strategy console, his fingers moving across holographic displays with surgical precision. He wasn't just an analyst, he was an architect of revenge. The recording of Hana's elimination played repeatedly on secondary screens, each viewing fueling the collective human resolve. Elena Rodriguez, a cyber warfare specialist with roots in South American advanced technology networks, began mapping the Imperial communication systems. Her team had already developed specialized infiltration algorithms that could penetrate even the most secure galactic defense networks. Each line of code represented a potential weapon, each algorithm a silent missile. Michael Park, leading psychological operations, understood something critical. This wasn't about military defeat. This was about making the Galactic Empire understand the profound mistake they had made. He studied Imperial communication patterns, cultural weaknesses, and psychological triggers. The team worked in complete silence, their personal grief transformed into calculated strategy. They knew traditional military engagement would be suicide. The Imperial forces outnumbered human military resources by almost 500 to 1. Direct confrontation was impossible. "We don't need weapons," David muttered, reviewing strategic simulations. "We need precision." Elena's network mapping revealed something interesting. The Imperial communication infrastructure, while massive, had critical vulnerabilities. Their centralized system meant that a targeted disruption could create massive systemic failures. One precise strike could potentially cripple entire planetary networks. Michael began constructing psychological warfare protocols. They would use the Imperial's own communication channels against them. The message would be clear, cold, and absolutely terrifying. Not a threat of violence, but a promise of systematic destruction. United Earth Command gathered representatives from every human colony. The meeting wasn't about discussion, it was about unified action. Each representative carried the weight of Hana's memory, each understood the stakes. The strategy emerged slowly, like a complex mathematical equation solving itself. They would not destroy the Imperial forces. They would make them understand that humanity was not a passive species to be eliminated casually. Technical teams worked around the clock. They developed infiltration algorithms that could slip through quantum encryption like water through a net. They created communication viruses that could replicate and spread faster than biological organisms. David's team discovered something crucial. The Imperial communication network relied on centralized quantum relay stations. These massive structures transmitted information across thousands of light years. If these could be compromised, the entire Imperial communication system would collapse. Elena's cyber warfare team began preparing their primary weapon, a communication virus that wasn't designed to destroy, but to expose. It would broadcast Hana's elimination across every Imperial communication channel, accompanied by a precise cold message. Michael worked on the psychological profile. The message needed to be perfect, not emotional but calculated. It would demonstrate that humans understood exactly what they were doing and were completely prepared to follow through. The preparation took weeks of precise planning. Every potential scenario was simulated, every potential response calculated. They weren't preparing for war. They were preparing for a surgical strike that would redefine galactic power dynamics. United Earth Command understood something fundamental. This wasn't about revenge. This was about sending a message that would echo through generations. Touch a human child, and the response will be beyond your comprehension. As the final preparations completed, a strange calm descended over the command center. They weren't soldiers preparing for battle. They were architects designing a response that would reshape galactic understanding of humanity. David looked at the holographic display, Hana's image reflected in the quantum networks. "We're ready," he said quietly. The first strike began with absolute silence. No alarms, no dramatic explosions, just a precise infiltration of the Imperial communication networks that happened so smoothly, it was almost invisible. Elena Rodriguez sat in a small, dimly lit control room, her fingers dancing across quantum interfaces. Each movement was calculated, each keystroke a weapon more precise than any physical missile. The Imperial communication network, massive and complex, began to shift subtly. First, they targeted the quantum relay stations. These massive structures, spread across multiple star systems, were the Imperial communication backbone. Tiny algorithmic infections began to spread, not destroying, but transforming. Like a virus that rewrites genetic code, these digital agents started to change how information flowed. David Kim monitored global response systems. His team had spent months studying Imperial communication protocols. They understood that information was power, and they were about to demonstrate the true meaning of technological superiority. The broadcast began simultaneously across every Imperial communication channel. Crystal-clear footage of Hana's elimination appeared, her final moments captured with clinical precision. Alongside the video, a message emerged, simple, direct, terrifying in its clarity. "You killed a child. We are coming. You have one planetary cycle to evacuate." Imperial communication. Officers first thought it was a system error, then confusion, then pure terror. The message repeated in perfect Imperial dialect, with mathematical precision that demonstrated human technological understanding far beyond what the Empire believed possible. Commander Reiner received the broadcast in his primary command center. The massive holographic displays flickered, Hana's image replacing standard operational data. For the first time in his long military career, he felt something close to fear. The message wasn't just a threat. It was a promise. Michael Park had designed the psychological warfare aspect perfectly. The communication didn't show human emotion. It demonstrated cold, calculated resolve. No anger, no rage. Just a simple, terrifying promise of consequences. Imperial communication networks began to experience strange disruptions. Not total destruction, but strategic interference. Navigation systems would momentarily show incorrect star charts. Communication channels would briefly display random data streams. Nothing catastrophic, but enough to create growing uncertainty. Smaller Imperial colonies began receiving the broadcast. Planetary governors watched in horror as the message repeated. Hana's elimination playing on repeat. The psychological impact was immediate and profound. United Earth Command watched silently. This wasn't about immediate military victory. This was about sending a message that would echo through galactic communication networks for generations. The Imperial leadership's initial response was predictable. They attempted to block the transmission, to contain the information. But each attempt revealed more of their communication vulnerabilities. Humans were systematically dismantling their technological defenses without firing a single physical weapon. Strategic communication centers across Imperial territories began to experience cascading system failures. Not total destruction, but precise, targeted disruptions that created maximum psychological impact. Colony administrators received conflicting information. Some communication channels suggested immediate evacuation. Others claimed the message was a human deception. The uncertainty became a weapon more powerful than any physical missile. David watched the global response systems, a slight smile crossing his face. They had transformed information itself into a strategic weapon. The Imperial forces were being defeated not through physical confrontation, but through a complete understanding and manipulation of their communication infrastructure. Elena continued, her precise infiltration. Each algorithm was a surgical instrument, each data stream a potential weapon. The Imperial network was being systematically understood, mapped, and strategically compromised. Michael monitored psychological response patterns. The message was spreading faster than any physical communication could travel. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt were becoming more destructive than any physical weapon. One planetary cycle. That was the promise. One planetary cycle to understand that humanity was not a species to be casually eliminated. The first strike was complete. Not a shot fired. Not a single physical weapon deployed. Just a precise, calculated demonstration of technological superiority that would reshape galactic understanding of human potential. The systematic dismantling began with invisible precision. No explosions, no dramatic battles, just a complete technological transformation that would make the Imperial forces understand the true meaning of human capability. Elena Rodriguez's team had prepared for months. Their infiltration algorithms moved through Imperial networks like quantum ghosts, leaving no trace but changing everything. Critical infrastructure started experiencing strange, unexplainable failures. Planetary defense systems went dark first. Massive shield generators protecting Imperial colonies suddenly lost power. Communication relays began broadcasting random data streams. Navigation systems showed impossible star charts. The Imperial forces couldn't understand what was happening. On the primary Imperial communication station, Commander Reiner watched in growing horror. His advanced monitoring systems showed complete network collapse, but with no apparent source of attack. Entire planetary defense grids simply stopped functioning. Space stations began experiencing catastrophic system failures. Life support networks flickered. Artificial gravity generators produced unpredictable results. Massive orbital platforms started drifting off precise trajectories, creating chaos across multiple star systems. David Kim monitored the global response from United Earth Command's deep ocean facility. Each system failure was precisely calculated. They weren't destroying infrastructure. They were demonstrating total technological control. Smaller Imperial colonies experienced the most dramatic effects. Communication channels became unreliable. Transportation networks collapsed. Agricultural support systems failed simultaneously. The Imperial infrastructure was being systematically paralyzed. Michael Park's psychological warfare team ensured that every system failure carried a clear message. Each disruption reminded the Imperial forces of Hana, the child they had casually eliminated. The psychological pressure was deliberate and intense. Quantum communication relays, the backbone of Imperial technological infrastructure, began experiencing strange quantum entanglement disruptions. Information flows became unpredictable. Critical, data streams disappeared or transformed randomly. No physical weapons were used. No direct military confrontation occurred. Humanity was defeating the Imperial forces through pure technological superiority. Imperial leadership emergency meetings became scenes of growing panic. Their most advanced technological systems were failing simultaneously. Communication between planetary governors became impossible. The entire Imperial infrastructure was collapsing from within. Strategic military command centers lost complete operational capacity. Weapon systems became inoperable. Communication networks transformed into chaotic data streams. The Imperial forces couldn't identify an enemy, couldn't understand the attack mechanism. Elena's team had created something beyond traditional cyber warfare. These were living algorithms that could adapt, transform, and systematically disable complex technological systems. Each line of code was a precision instrument designed to create maximum uncertainty. Planetary defense networks went completely dark. Shield generators failed. Communication satellites became useless chunks of metal floating in space. The Imperial forces were being systematically blinded and disabled. David watched the global response systems with clinical precision. They weren't destroying the Imperial infrastructure. They were demonstrating complete technological dominance. Each system failure was a message. Humanity could control their entire technological ecosystem without firing a single physical weapon. Michael ensured that psychological pressure remained constant. Every system failure carried a subtle reminder of Hana. The Imperial forces weren't just experiencing a technological attack. They were experiencing a calculated, emotional response to their casual elimination of a child. Smaller Imperial colonies experienced complete infrastructure collapse. Agricultural support systems failed. Transportation networks became inoperable. Critical medical facilities lost all technological support. The human response was systematic and total. The Imperial leadership began to understand a critical truth. They were facing an enemy that understood their technological infrastructure better than they did. Humanity wasn't just defending itself. It was demonstrating complete technological superiority. No physical battles. No traditional military confrontation. Just a complete systematic dismantling of an entire galactic force's technological infrastructure. One planetary cycle. That was the promise. And humanity was delivering a response beyond the Imperial force's worst nightmares. The final judgment arrived with cold, calculated precision. United Earth Command had transformed from a defensive organization into a technological force that would reshape galactic understanding. Commander Reiner stood in his primary command center, watching as the last remnants of Imperial infrastructure collapsed. Holographic displays showed complete system failures across multiple star systems. His most advanced technological networks had become useless. David Kim appeared on the primary communication channel. No military uniform, no dramatic posturing, just a calm, direct representative of humanity. Behind him, a holographic display showed Hana's final moments, a constant reminder of the catalyst for this response. The Galactic Imperial forces have two choices. David's voice was clinical, without emotion. Complete withdrawal from all human-claimed territories, or total technological elimination. The Imperial leadership understood the message immediately. This wasn't a negotiation. This was a judgment. Elena Rodriguez's team had done more than disable Imperial systems. They had demonstrated the ability to completely control their entire technological ecosystem. Every Imperial communication channel, every defense network, every critical infrastructure system was now under human control. Michael Park ensured the psychological pressure remained absolute. The message was clear. Humanity would not be a passive victim. The elimination of a single child had triggered a response that would redefine galactic power dynamics. Smaller Imperial colonies began receiving evacuation orders. Not through traditional communication channels, but through precise, systematically controlled information streams. The human response was turning their entire technological infrastructure against them. Planetary defense systems that once protected Imperial territories now became potential traps. Navigation networks that once supported Imperial expansion now showed impossible travel routes. Communication channels broadcast a constant reminder of Hana's elimination. The Imperial leadership's emergency meeting became a scene of complete desperation. Their most advanced technological systems had been transformed into weapons against them. They couldn't communicate, couldn't coordinate, couldn't understand the attack mechanism. David Kim presented the final terms: complete withdrawal from all human-claimed territories, full reparations for colonial damages, public acknowledgement of the child's elimination. No negotiations, no debates. Commander Reiner realized the true extent of human technological capability. They hadn't just disabled Imperial systems, they had demonstrated the ability to completely control their entire technological ecosystem without firing a single physical weapon. United Earth Command had transformed information itself into a strategic weapon. The Imperial forces were being judged not through military confrontation, but through a complete demonstration of technological superiority. Smaller Imperial colonies began receiving systematic evacuation instructions. Critical infrastructure, networks were being transformed into controlled channels that guided Imperial forces away from human territories. No physical force, just pure technological control. The message repeated across every Imperial communication channel. You killed a child. You have been judged. Michael Park's psychological warfare team ensured that every system failure, every communication disruption carried an emotional weight. This wasn't just a technological response. This was a judgment for the casual elimination of an innocent life. Elena Rodriguez watched as her infiltration algorithms continued their precise work. They weren't just disabling systems. They were demonstrating humanity's complete technological understanding of Imperial infrastructure. The final judgment wasn't about destruction. It was about demonstrating a level of technological capability that would reshape galactic understanding of human potential. Commander Reiner made the only choice possible: complete surrender, complete withdrawal. The Imperial forces would become a cautionary tale in galactic communication networks. David Kim's final message was simple and direct. Humanity is not a passive species. Touch our children, face complete elimination. The galactic power dynamics had been forever transformed, not through military might but through pure, calculated technological superiority. The hunt was complete. The judgment was delivered.